Welcome to the sixth in a series of mock divorce mediations. Today's mediator is Michelle Weinberg, who is the co-owner of Westfield Mediation, a practice solely focused on divorce mediation. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist who now concentrates only on divorce mediation. The other players are Janet Gelber, who's a licensed real estate agent, and Heather Keith, who is the founder of Keith Family Law in Westfield, New Jersey. She devotes her practice almost exclusively to divorce and family law. In scheduling both the mock civil and divorce mediations, I try to have mediators that come from different professional backgrounds. And let me explain why. I've been involved with mediator training since 2005, when we started the 40-hour divorce mediation training course. What I've experienced from that course is that generally, and I emphasize generally, lawyers, mental health professionals, and others have both strengths and weaknesses when they come to learning how to become a mediator. Mental health professionals have especially good interpersonal people skills and are comfortable with dealing with interpersonal conflict, something that lawyers may struggle with, as can be seen by their more frequent use of a caucus format. In my opinion, the best mediators learn from those with other professional backgrounds and blend their mediator skills with those of other professionals. So with that, let me turn to Michelle. We now have our full complement of players. And Michelle, I will turn it over to you, and I will turn my video and audio off.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So we are doing a mock divorce mediation, and we're going to focus on child support today and other child-related issues. And our players are Marilyn and Bruce. So we have a husband and a wife, even though I know you see two females accompanying me. One is pretending to be a husband and one is pretending to be a wife. And we thought that would make more sense. Statistically, most people see husbands and wives, and certainly in our practice, Randy and I see a majority of our clients are husband and wife. And the last mock divorce mediation was a same-sex couple, and we thought it would make more sense to represent the majority of people that people see. So we're going to start. So at this point, we would have already addressed a bunch of issues. So I'm just going to sort of recap, and then so I'll start now. So hello, Marilyn. Hi, Bruce. How are you guys doing today?
Hi, not bad. Thank you. How are you?
I'm okay. Thanks. How about you, Bruce?
I think I'm doing all right. That last session was kind of interesting, but yeah, I'm kind of thinking about some things, but I think I'm doing all right.
Okay, good. So I know at the past few meetings, we talked about your parenting plan and your division of your assets and your debt. So that was the last one. And we went over the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, regarding those sections. Is there any update, any changes, significant changes that you want to address about either of those two areas of the MOU right now?
No, I think we're doing all right with that.
Okay. Yeah. And again, just to let you know, like, you can always change it at any time. It's not binding yet. So we'll review it again before the end of this process, and we can always circle back and make adjustments to whatever, if any changes come up, and make adjustments as needed. Okay. So like I said, today we're going to talk about child support, and there's a bunch of factors that go into child support. Have either one of you do either one of you know anything about child support? Sometimes people hear stuff or look stuff up or anything like that. So,
well, from what I know, it's kind of a somewhat strict formula. I think based on salary, based on how much time or custody you have with the child. So
okay,
that's what I know of it.
Okay, and what about you, Bruce?
Well, I know it's going to be a lot. That's what I know. So,
Well, I have it most of the time, so, you know.
well,
it's-
I don't know if that's true. I mean, I get it. I travel a lot, but that, I mean, it doesn't need to be that way. So we talked about that with the parenting plan, but anyway, all I know is it's going to be a lot. I don't know how I'm going to pay it with that alimony I think we're getting ready to talk about, but if there's a formula, there's a formula, I guess. So
Okay.
let's just see
So-
what happens.
I know you two have been separated for a while now, since before the pandemic. So have you had a formal, any type of formal child support plan in place, or is it sort of, I'll pay for this, you pay for that, and we'll figure it out and that kind of stuff? Different people do it different ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly splitting some of the bigger expenses or that have come up.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say that's about true. We just kind of pay what we, when we have got the kid, when she's got the kids,
Mhm.
she pays, and when I've got the kids, pizza
Yeah.
can be kind of expensive. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
You said I don't have to pay for movies right now because they're not doing that. But anyway,
Right.
I think we've just been kind of winging it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this effort of calculation of child support will sort of formalize, like you said, Marilyn, it is sort of, there is a formula that the state uses, and it is a variety of factors. If I could share my screen, I'm just gonna pull something up and I will send this to you afterwards, because a lot of times the question of what does child support cover comes up repeatedly over the course of Alexander's life. And I just want to highlight some things. So child support covers the child share of expenses for housing, food, clothing, transportation, entertainment, and some like stuff that insurance doesn't cover. So like your copays and medicine and things like that, up to $250 per year. So basically, this is a lot of information about the explanation of that. But basically, within the formula, there's 3 types of costs. There's a fixed cost, a variable cost, and a controlled cost. And the fixed costs are the housing. So you both have houses, you both pay for them, whether Alexander's with you or not with you. So that's part of the child support. The variable costs are what happens when Alexander is with you. So that's sort of like transportation and food. So the pizza that you mentioned, or the gas to take him, to an activity or whatnot. And then there's the controlled cost. So that's what you have control over when he's within at your house. So like, what shampoo are you buying him, and what clothing does he have at your house, or going back and forth? And are you going to the movies or not when he's with you? So that kind of thing. So those are the general categories, and it's broken down into this formula, like you said. So like I said, I'm gonna send that to you, but it's just helpful information just to lay the foundation to have. So I know, like you said, Bruce, we did talk about the parenting plan, and as of now, because of your travel and work schedule and just how things have worked out, Alexander is with Marilyn 12 out of 14 days. And with you, Bruce, 2 out of 14 days. Is that going to be the plan going forward, do you think, for purposes of the child support calculation? Because that is one of the factors.
Well, what happens when my schedule changes? I mean, the only reason we've got it that way is just because I've been traveling so much. But, I don't know if I'm going to be traveling forever. So how does that work?
So that's a great question. So child support can always be recalculated, especially when there's a significant change in some of the factors. So if you see, not just for like a week or 2, but if you see for the coming year that you're going to have a significantly different schedule, and that your parenting time with Alexander will change in a, more than it is now, then you can always come back and I can help you recalculate child support. So it's sort of built into the system that, remind me again, how old is Alexander?
He's 10.
10, right. Sorry about that. So, a dollar spent on a 10-year-old now is not the same as a dollar 6 years from now spent when he's 16. And also expenses for a 10-year-old are probably not the same as expenses for a 16-year-old. So the formula takes that into account as well.
Yeah, I'll say, wait until he starts playing hockey.
Yeah.
And driving. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The car insurance.
It's
astronomical.
Not looking forward to that.
and braces. But we'll get to that. And I also have, as we talked last time when we did your financials, I have, Marilyn, that you make about 85,000 a year, and that Bruce, you're at about 150. Is that still accurate?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. And that you're going to alternate claiming him for child support for tax purposes. It used to be a bigger, and also with the American Cares or whatever that's called, American Rescue Plan or whatever, you should check with your accountant to see if it impacts it at all, because I know that there were some child care credit, child tax credit and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and head of household too. I was kind of hoping to claim him for head of household. Can I do that if she's?
But Arna, I mean, I feel like if I have him, you know, what is it, 85% of the time? I mean, how do you consider head of household? I mean,
Well, I know
like
that I heard that there's a form that you can sign that says that, you know, even no matter what your parenting plan is, that you can switch around your dependents. That's what my friend Chuck said anyway. I was just talking to him the other day. And anyway, I don't know. I think we should talk it through because, you know, that credit on my 150 is a lot more than the credit would be on your 85. So something to talk about, I think. I don't want to pay that much to the government, do you?
right. So a lot of people, your friend Chuck was correct. There is a form that you can fill out.
He knows a lot about divorce. He's been through like 3 of them.
Oh my goodness. He's an expert now.
Yeah.
So yes, there is a form. So if you'd like to do the alternating, you can, even if Alexander is not with you a majority of the time, you can still fill out that form and do it for tax purposes.
So you could alternate head of household, like and dependent. Okay.
Yeah, for him being your dependent, you can alternate.
Okay. All right.
And then who covers him for health insurance? Who covers
I do.
Alexander? Okay. And so I would need the information of, because that's one of the factors also, of what it costs to just cover you, and then what it costs to cover you and Alexander, not you, Alexander, and Marilyn.
Yeah, I got that from my human resources.
Oh, great.
That's some piece of homework I probably should do if I want this to move forward. So it's going to be like 150 a month for that's the difference between just for me and then just for me and Alexander, not with Marilyn. On that.
Okay, so the differential is 150.
Yep, that's what I got.
Okay, so I will use all those factors and then I put them into the formula, and then it will tell me what the number is going to be, and then that's our, the basis for our discussion. And then sometimes people go above that because they feel like it's too low and it's not really accurate reflecting. Sometimes people would like to go below it, and then they might need approval from the court to do that. So you can talk to your attorneys about that as well. But at least it'll be our discussion, basis for our discussion point. Okay.
Right, because is it negotiable? I didn't think child support was negotiable.
So it's not negotiable in the fact that it's the child's right to have both parents support. So Alexander has the right as a child to have both parents support him. So you can't negotiate away saying, I'm not paying for that. I'm not paying for his food or shelter or anything like that. So it is required of both parents to provide that support.
Okay.
Yeah, but sometimes parents find, usually it's that their lifestyle, because child support is the average amount of the average family in New Jersey. So that takes into account the entire state of what it costs to raise your children. And it tends to be low, honestly, for this area. So some people find that it is necessary to go above the required amount to provide that support for their kids.
Okay.
So the other factor, and Bruce, you sort of alluded to this, is alimony. So if alimony is going to be a factor, then that affects the child support amount. So what I generally do is I can run it with no alimony and you can get a number, and then I can run it again if there's going to be alimony. We haven't talked about it yet, and we can talk about it now if you've already talked about it, outside of mediation, or we can circle back to it at another time.
Well, Marilyn, you know how I feel. I mean, you're working at 85K and I'm up to 150. I'm pretty much topped out at my income, but I feel like Marilyn can earn more. So I don't know if I think this is alimony or not, or maybe just for a little while, but I don't want to be on the hook for alimony forever.
Yeah, well, I mean, I am hoping, being in sales and being in real estate, I guess I have technically unlimited income potential, but for now, but I would like to see, to be perfectly honest, I mean, how it affects child support, because I would rather honestly go to that. I mean, if it's makes that a difference, I'm not sure.
Right. So what happens is when alimony is involved, child support will go down,
Right.
because you'll have more money to contribute towards, Marilyn, you'll have more money to contribute towards paying for Alexander's costs of living, and Bruce, you'll have less because you're paying towards Marilyn's alimony.
Mhm.
So when there's no alimony involved, then it's just the straight formula. When the alimony gets involved, it gets, your incomes get recalculated accordingly. Okay. So I can do it with the no alimony for starting, and then we'll see what that number is. And then we can talk about if, we can circle back to it maybe at the next meeting and talk about.
I mean, to be honest, I would sooner pay money towards Alexander. No offense, Marilyn. I just know that look, I know we're getting divorced and everything, but you're an excellent real estate person, and I know that you're going to do fine. But I'm a lot more worried about Alexander, and plus you got your parents helping you out too. So I'm not.
Well, yeah.
I'm not too worried about you, but Alexander, if we want to do something, I would be more willing to pay more child support than I would be willing to pay alimony, to be honest, especially now that it's not even, Chuck was telling me it's not even a tax thing anymore, this alimony.
Right.
You used to be able to whack it off of your income, and I guess you can't do that anymore, huh?
Yeah, I do find that strange. Yeah, like I said, I mean, we've gone through a lot of this stuff before, so no need to rehash everything. But at the end of the day, yes, I mean, I'd rather have it for Alexander if it's going to come to that. So
yeah, so maybe we can work something out like that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Alright.
so let's see what the number comes to be, and then we'll figure out if you're going to go in one direction or the other. But let's at least get a base number, and then you'll have to see if it's enough, and if it's not enough, how you're going to figure out how to make it more. Okay.
Okay. All right.
So the other thing that we needed to circle back to regarding Alexander was part of that parenting plan that we sort of said, oh, well, when we do the finances, we'll come back to this, was all the expenses that child support doesn't cover. So that's a lot for kids that parents don't realize, because child support is the basics. And then you have all the other stuff like his activities. And I mentioned before, if he needs braces and, things like that. So there's some everyday expenses, and then there's some large expenses as well. And how did you want to address paying for that? So that's all the stuff that's outside of child support.
I mean, I guess I was just thinking we'd split it in half, which is somewhat what we've been doing informally for now. So
Okay.
Yeah, I think that works. That works for me.
Okay. So just to point out that if you're sharing it 50-50, it's not necessarily dollar for dollar, because your income is not the same. So $1 to Marilyn is not the same as $1 to Bruce. But if that's the way you want to do it, then you totally can. Other times people do it in proportion to income to make it dollar for dollar. But some people find that a little more math intensive, and and it also depends on how many expenses you have and how extraordinary the expenses are. So if you want to do it,
is just so much easier.
yeah, I mean, I have to say, yes, right now am I making less, but to your point, like, I don't know if it's worth the aggravation. It's not like the income differential is that much. So
okay. All right. So you
And
want to share
Michelle, do we have to go back and forth with all these receipts like we've been doing? Is
Yeah.
there some other way that we can? That's a hassle. Sometimes I forget,
mhm.
and it's
So
like
tell me,
later,
how have
and
you
I get annoyed with me and everything. So
Yeah.
there's a way around that.
So what have you been doing now?
We just
Swapping
like
receipts
text
will remember.
and tell, yeah, it's just like, oh, this costs this much here, and then
So is one
you
are
Venmo
you like,
me,
oh, Venmo? Okay.
yeah.
So
Sometimes cash, sometimes a check, sometimes Venmo, whatever.
Mhm.
yeah. Okay. So there is a program that people have really liked called Our Family Wizard. It's an app. I think it's like $100 a year you have to join or something, but it does a really good job of helping you track those expenses. So it's not like effortless. You do have to remember to enter the expenses into the app, but it does a lot better of like who's doing what. And at the end of the month, maybe, you know, if someone paid $100 more than the other person paid for their expenses that they incurred, then you can figure out how you want to do that, or the end of the year. It has various ways of doing it. So
I don't know if that's going to work for me, Meryl. I'm busy. I don't know. You know what? When sometimes it's just, it's all I can do to get him to soccer practice. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, I don't know. What do you, Marilyn, does that work for, like, it doesn't really work right now, this whole receipt, entering, remembering this, I don't know. So
I mean, I'm okay, but I've always been more of that detailed kind of did all the expenses anyway. So, but I mean, whatever is going to make, I guess if you need to reimburse me, whatever is going to make it easier.
Well, can't we just have like a separate account or something like that? Can we do it? Can't we? Is that a thing?
Sure. Yeah. So you can do that for sure. So the joy of mediation is that you have the ability to create a plan that works for you. So I'm not gonna let, Marilyn's totally right. I am I'm a programmer. So when I'm at work, I am very focused, but outside of work, I'm not gonna lie, I can let some things go, but wouldn't it be easier just like, can we just like have an account where, I trust you, Marilyn. It's not like, we've had our problems in the past, but I know you're not gonna run out and do something crazy, but at the same time, I don't want to be bothered with all this detail. What do you think? Can we just have an account and we both just toss money into it, and maybe we stick a card to it and you can use it that way? Does that work?
I know, I guess my only thing is like, how do you keep track? Like, we both put in the same amount, like periodically, like how we make it equitable, I guess.
Well, that's the way my friend Chuck does it. he and his wife, they agree on like what some crazy amount they've got. We're not going to do the same thing, but anyway, he and Mary just do like, they figure out a number that they just want to keep in that account all the time, and then they just kind of keep an eye on it, and whenever that needs to be filled up again, they just both pitch in a 50, half and half, and just make sure it stays up to that certain level. Would that be easier? I mean, I like that. You can take care of all that stuff, I don't want to be bothered with I'll get them to the soccer practice, but I don't want to have to worry about paying for everything. That's all.
But is this just going to be used for those extra expenses, not for like, oh, I have them today, I'm going to buy pizza with it, or fill up my gas tank? Like, are we, that's
right. So I have had other families do it this way for sure, that they come up with they call it the kid account, and that the kid expenses come out of the kid account. What's helpful is they come up with a list of sort of the eligible kid expenses. So, it's sort of like camp and the activities like soccer or hockey, or, whatever the like large expenses are, not necessarily the day-to-day expenses. Because what comes up is, okay, we're going, Bruce and Alexander are going out to dinner. So is that covered under the kid account? Is it, or is it not? So you guys can decide, how you want to address, but generally it's the larger overall expenses that are related to solely the kid. That's for the kid account. But if you want to adjust it, you can. Like I said, the joy of mediation is that you can come up with a plan that works for you.
Sounds like homework.
It's a little bit of homework. Yeah. Yeah, divorce takes a little bit of work. It's not, but Bruce, it sounds like you're looking for a way that would be sort of a minimal effort on your part, that you put the money in, and then Marilyn will sort of keep track of how things are going, and then she'll tell you when more money is needed to be put in, that you're not interested in doing all the detail work.
All I want is at the end of the day, money's going to, I'm going to set up a direct deposit and money's going to come out of my account towards whatever support we were thinking about. And then every so often she's going to let me know when I got to put money into this kid account that we're talking about. And that's the end of it. That's all I really want. I'm not saying I'm not lazy, but I just am not. Yeah, that's exactly right. I just don't really want to be involved. This is the way she's always been super detail oriented. That's why she's the real estate person. And I'm just, I'm not that way. And I just I want it simple, simple, simple. So 50-50 works for me, and having an account works for me. Marilyn, you just got to tell me when you want me to put more money into it, and maybe send me the account so I can see what has got spent out of it. And I guess we have to have a little bit of homework to decide what we're going to pay out of it and make sure that we're both paying the right things out of it. I feel like that's about as complicated as I want it to be.
Okay. And what are your thoughts on that, Marilyn?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Since I'm the one, right, who's usually signing them up and paying upfront for most of the activities, that'll work for me. So.
Okay, good. So I can write it up that way, if that works for you. And then there's one last big kid expense that we encourage parents to put into an agreement regarding their child. And that is post-secondary education. So that's generally college. And how parents are going to pay for college. So I know he's 10 and it doesn't seem that far away. I mean, it seems far away, but it's coming up closer than you think. And in New Jersey, generally, parents are the way it is now. I've heard that it may be changing in the future. So maybe 8 years from now, it might be different, but I've heard that for now, it's still expected that parents contribute to the cost of their child's education. New Jersey generally doesn't care how married people pay for their child's education, but they care how divorced people pay for their children's college education, because parents have sued each other, parents have sued kids, kids have sued grandparents, and courts have had to make decisions about this topic. So there has been court-related decisions regarding this. So generally, we encourage parents to make a decision just as a way of protecting themselves from getting sued, let's say 8 years from now. So if you come up with this agreement, then that protects you from 8 years from now saying, oh my God, now I suddenly owe $250,000 for education that I wasn't planning on, kind of thing. So I don't know, does he have any, have you established any type of like 529 accounts or any savings accounts towards higher education up until this point?
He does have a 529 account. I mean, hopefully it'll grow at this point. It'll cover some of it, not a lot, but
right.
It's a little bit of something.
Okay.
My whole thing, I just don't get, because how can I predict where we'll be financially 8 years from now? This is why it seems, hard for me to conceptualize. I'm like, yes, of course I'd want to help, but I don't know what position I'll be in, 8 years.
And a lot of people are like that, like, how am I supposed to know? So people can put parameters around it. So for instance, are you willing to pay your share, whatever that may be, of what it would cost to attend an in-state college versus a private institution or an out-of-state state? Like there are various levels that you can put parameters around. So are you willing to pay for what it would cost to attend Rutgers or Princeton? So Princeton is a lot more than Rutgers. So, if you're saying I'll pay for Rutgers and he ends up going to Princeton, that's great. It's just you're not financially responsible for paying that. We also generally say that you agree to apply for any financial aid that he may qualify for, or scholarships, merit money, that kind of thing, any loans, anything that comes before your contribution, your part of the contribution. So I don't know if you've talked about this, if you want to put any parameters around it. Again, you don't have to. We just encourage people to consider it because it has been an issue in the past.
Well, Marilyn and I don't agree about much, but one thing that we do agree about is this cost of college business. And I'm going to take it one step further. First of all, Chuck's a good friend of mine, and he kind of kind of warned me about this, but I still can't believe that the state of New Jersey can tell us that we have to do this. I don't think that's ridiculous. That's like, you know what? I put myself through school. Marilyn, you mostly put yourself through, saw your parents helped a little bit, but anyway, I don't know that we were
Not less
planning
expensive.
Yes,
yeah, back then, yeah.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
if it cost what it cost me to go, I'd be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, right. So we put aside a little bit, not a whole lot, but I don't think either one of us were planning on Marilyn, I'll let you speak for yourself. Maybe something's changed, but we hadn't thought about, we thought Alexander would put himself through college kind of like we did. It gives him character and all this stuff. But so I don't like the fact that I'm hearing now that we have to contribute somehow.
It's a way to protect yourself against any future, because you're in agreement now, but what if you're not in agreement 8 years from now, right? So if you come up with an agreement now about, okay, we're going to pay X amount, and part of that is you can say, yes, Alexander is going to pay a certain amount. So a couple I had last week said, okay, our kid's going to pay a third, parent A is going to pay a third, and parent B is going to pay a third. So everybody sort of has skin in the game and working towards a goal of having your child go to college and graduate. You don't have to do it that way. You can come up with a number amount, you can come up with a percentage amount, you can come up with nothing, but then you also put yourself at risk, like I said, of being open to everything down the road.
Yeah,
and it may change between now and then, right? Yeah. So it's a big gamble. Like you said, Marilyn, it's hard to predict the future. It's a big unknown. It's a cost that's unknown. So I'm just putting it out there as information.
All right. I got an idea, Marilyn. What do you think about this? What if we keep contributing to that account that we set up? Not a lot, not like thousands and thousands and thousands a month or anything like that. But how about if we just keep contributing to that, until he's say 18, and then we just start winding down that? Would that do it, Michelle?
If that's what you agree to, sure.
Oh, okay. So
maybe
we can
that's
just
possible.
Yeah.
So we can say
Maybe
like
that's
100, 200, 300 bucks a month. I mean, whatever you, because I'll tell you, I was not planning. I don't know about you, but I was not planning. Like I know we've been separated for a little while, but when we were married, that wasn't the plan. We were going to save for retirement, and we were going to fund that thing as best we could a little while. And then Alexander is going to have to flip some burgers and put himself through. I don't feel like I need skin in the game. We raised him. That's the skin I got in the game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we make sure that he's eligible to go, get through school and high school with all his AP classes, hopefully, and all that. So I don't know. I feel like I don't want the government to have control over what we do. And I don't really want to change our plan either, because it's going to be, we already know it being separated. I don't know about you, but I keep hearing from Chuck about the standard of living and all that. And I'll tell you what, I have a different standard of living than when we were together. And I'm not saying we were happy, but I don't go out as much as I used to. We don't, I'm sure you have the same thing, but I can't imagine coming up with however much it's going to be 8 years from now because the government said I had to.
Yeah.
To school, that's all. So if we can do that, then at least it's predictable. You know what I mean? Because you said earlier.
Yeah, that I know. I'm having trouble wrapping my head around, like forcing us. So we can just say, okay, we're going to contribute to the 529 until he goes to college, and then that's it. We can do that and be like, all right, that's all we're responsible for. If I can, I'd love to. If I'm in the position, I will, but I don't know.
Right. So you can always contribute more, right? So if it says that you're going to pay into the 529 X amount of dollars, and that turns out to be, I'm just going to make up a number, $20,000 at the end of the day. That money gets run through, and then you have more money to contribute. That's great. Bruce can't sue you and say you have to pay this all this extra money, right? So if you come up with this agreement, so like I said, it's a way to protect yourself kind of against future selves.
All right. I understand a little better now. Okay, thank you.
But it is hard to predict, because who knows what the cost of college is going to be, who knows where he's going to want to go, what kind of scholarships or loans he might, qualify for. So it is a lot of unknown. So it is a lot to get, wrap your head around. But if you're in agreement that you're both going to contribute, a certain amount to the 529 on a monthly basis, that can be your agreement if that's what you come up with.
Right. Okay.
You know, what else we could do is maybe we don't do it to 529, maybe we do it to a different account. That way, if he goes to, say, if he gets a full scholarship, or, you know, say if he goes to West Point, like we've been talking about, and he doesn't have to pay to go there, then he can use that money for something else. I think with a 529, you got to use it for education. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that's just an idea that he can take.
Yeah, you can ask
Yeah,
your,
I could ask my advisor, only because it's also tax, you know, deferred to, I mean, there's other tax deferred account, you know, so yeah, I guess we'll have to discuss that, you know, what's.
sure, what makes the most sense.
Mhm.
So do you want to talk?
That makes me feel better. I thought I was going to be on the hook for Rutgers.
Yeah, seriously. It's like, how do I know I can come up with 50 grand in 8 years? I don't know.
Yeah,
No idea.
right? I mean, you can be if that's what you come up with, right? So
And who
it
knows what
depends.
Rutgers is going to be in 8 years either.
Yeah.
You know?
I
We've seen
know.
it go up and up and up.
I don't know how our kids are going to pay for their kids. Like, it's just going to, I don't see an end, but hopefully at some point it gets resolved.
Yeah, I think there has to be some kind of.
There has to be a limit. So would it make sense to revisit the actual amount after I give you the child support amount? Because then you'll have a better idea of what your finances look like.
Yeah, I want to see this child support number.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so I'll run that, and then we'll revisit, you know, what the number is going to be, if it makes sense, if it has to go up or not, and also what the 529 amount is going to be.
Right.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right. Is there anything else related to any children, Alexander expenses that we didn't address that you want to talk about?
It's a little early, but I have a question about what about when he starts driving? Who gets to buy the car? Because I know Marilyn's going to want to get him a car. Maybe your parents can help. I want to know.
Well, again, I mean, it's hard to predict. I mean, only because he's, you know, right, you want to get him a job, or he'll have a job. He probably needs a car to drive there.
Oh,
but,
yeah. There's no doubt.
Yeah. So is that
Yeah.
something? Is that
Is
something you want?
that a child support thing, or is that an extra thing, or is that
That's an
he's on
extra
his own
thing.
kind of thing?
Yeah, it's extra. So you can put something in your agreement now, or you can just say, some people just say, we will buy him a car, to be determined, you know, how much, or we're definitely not buying him a car. If he wants a car, he has to buy it himself. You know, some people do put something in regarding if they are going to buy a car or not. Some people don't, because it's too hard to predict.
Now, Marilyn and I are getting along pretty well right now, but who knows what's going to happen in the future?
Mhm.
What happens when we're splitting all these extras that we're talking about, probably braces and skiing lessons and cars and all this big ticket items and everything. We're supposed to split them 50-50. But how do I know that, you know, she's not going to go out and buy him a Mercedes or something? Like, how do I?
Well, you can put in your
Yeah.
agreement that it has to be, you know, whatever car you buy has to be by mutual agreement.
Well, I don't mean just that. I mean, just like, what if, you know, like I say, like money's getting tight. Like this last year has taught me a lot, I got to say, about budgeting and all that. And I'm scared I'm going to get hit with some away, you know, travel soccer thing or something like that. It's like, what can do I have to pay half of everything she wants to do with him?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so as part of your parenting agreement, it does say that any activities, like if he starts to do travel soccer or hockey or whatever, that it does have to be by mutual agreement. So any new activities have to be by mutual agreement. So some people do put in that if you want it to be by mutual agreement, but only one person can afford it, then some people say, okay, I agree, but I just can't afford it. So if you're willing to pick up the tab, then you can pay, but then you run the risk of someone saying that all the time, right? And so they're always saying, oh, well, I would love for him to play travel hockey and travel soccer, but I just can't afford it. And then that always lands on the other person. So you can say like you won't within reason, and you won't continually withhold your agreement and ability to pay. So you can put something in there that it's already in there that it has to be by mutual agreement. But if you want to amend it, you can, if you'd like the ability to agree but not pay. It's a little risky.
It's unpredictable. I just don't want to be on the hook from this open-ended thing, because like, what if Marilyn all of a sudden wants to take him to Europe for 6 weeks?
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know if I would do things that are totally above my means either. So,
Or get the super duper braces instead of the braces he needs.
They're super duper
I just
braces.
want to, yeah, well, I just want to be involved in some of these things ahead of time, you know, because I don't want to be like hit with a, I don't want Marilyn to tell me like, you owe the child's account 6,000 because I got the super duper braces and we didn't talk about it.
Right. So all that stuff has to be decided by mutual agreement ahead of time. So anything new going forward. So the current activities that he's in, you've already essentially agreed that he's going to be in those, but any new things would have to be by mutual agreement. So it wouldn't be a surprise. You would have to know. The exception is like in the case of emergency, right? If so he falls out of the tree and breaks his arm is dangling and you need an MRI and it's expensive and whatever. So things like that are the exception to the rule. But in general, you have to agree ahead of time to anything that's an expense for Alexander. Does that answer your question?
Well, for now, I mean, devil's in the details, right? So I'd like to see exactly what we can come up with, but I definitely want some protections in that.
Okay, so we'll certainly review it.
Michelle, I'm going to step in now because I want to have some time for questioning. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a few questions, and then anyone else who wants to ask a question, either put it in Q&A or raise your hand, preferably. And when it comes time, I will unmute you, and then you have to unmute yourself and ask your question. So let me ask first a few comments. A very relaxed conversational style of mediation, which I thought was really good, right? I mean, you were just like having a three-way conversation, which I think is sort of the ideal when you have a mediation. I like the fact that you referred to actual parts of the child support guidelines. So describing what the different types of costs are, I think that helps people understand a lot better what child support really is. It's just not like some unknown thing. What program do you use, Michelle, for calculating?
Oh, we just switched. Something law. I can't remember the name. Randy knows.
Okay. Well, okay. Do you ever run the guide?
Wait, not Easy Soft. Family Law software. Yeah.
Okay. And what did you use before?
The one from Art Lieberman.
Okay. Divorceware NJ.
Yeah.
Do you ever run the calculations actually with the clients so they can see it as you're doing it?
I don't.
Okay. But you'll run multiple variations if they want to run that.
Yes.
Okay. When it came to alimony, let me just drop something. When it comes to alimony, Bruce, of course, doesn't want to pay any alimony.
I feel like I got a good deal.
Well, and Marilyn sort of went along with that very quickly. Marilyn, you did, right?
I mean, I had, my thoughts behind that if you want, but.
Okay. Well, you apparently just gave that up. You gave it up rather quickly. Michelle, was that the end of it in your mind? Or what are you going to circle back to it?
Right. So I think once they have the child support number with no alimony, then the issue of alimony would come up again. And then they'll see if it, needs to be addressed or not.
Okay. Would you have explained that, child support's obviously for the child, but alimony is for Marilyn?
Right. But I feel like they've been separated for several years now. So their lifestyle has been sort of adjusted already, and either they've been paying some alimony or they haven't, or child support, or they haven't. Like they've sort of have been winging it, and this is just a more formalized way of doing what they've been winging.
Would you have suggested to Marilyn and to Bruce to see what alimony might be as, under the rule of thumb, for example, to just so they could see, each party could see what it was with.
So I would do that. I would tell them to talk to their attorneys for sure about alimony. I would certainly say if you give up the right to alimony now, it's very difficult in the future to try and say, oh, just kidding, I really do want alimony. That's one of the more difficult things to change about a divorce agreement. And that I would bring it up if they were interested in it. If Marilyn showed any spark of interest in having alimony, even if Bruce was very insistent on not having alimony, then I could certainly talk about, well, this is how it used to be and it's not. And there was a little opening there when Bruce said like, oh, it's not taxed and stuff. And we could have gone into that whole new direction of that, but I was trying to stay focused more on the kid stuff.
Okay. And if you did come back to it, one of Bruce's concerns was, well, Marilyn is going to earn a lot more money in her real estate business, and perhaps the incomes would be more equal. And you could have addressed how that could have been handled when you got back to it. Okay. Bruce threw out rather quickly that all expenses, the big expenses, should be shared 50-50. You're sneaky, aren't you, Bruce?
Good plan.
Now, and Marilyn did not fight that, even though, Michelle, you said other people, a dollar's not a dollar, and other people do it in proportion to incomes. Marilyn, what was your thought there, or did you just?
No, I thought, and the same thing with alimony, and I could be wrong, I'd have to consult my attorney, but what happens if let's say I start making, double and I start making more, and then I feel like I wanted to set that precedent of like, all right, well, it'd be 50-50, because what if I start making like 250,000, 300,000, and then I need to pay more later? Because I feel like Bruce, he doesn't want to deal with it. So he's not going to go back and be like, hey, now you should be paying 65% or whatever. So I was like, I'm trying to set this precedent of like, you know what? I just want the money. I want to get what I think is fair, at least for now, which is 50%, and just have it done. And I'm okay with that. And
so you thought it was fair, even though you make substantially less, but you thought it was fair.
Fair,
I must admit,
fair might not be the exact word, but okay for now, because I just,
okay.
Sometimes it's like you want to just have it resolved, and I'm hoping in this, positive mindset that yes, my career is going to take off, and then, I'm going to be in a better position, because then I'm not going to have to pay the disproportionate amount later. I mean, that's a hopeful thinking, but I'm just like, all right, let's just do this.
I must admit, I was surprised at how many clients I had that would do exactly the same thing. And I don't know why they would do that, because some making substantially less, and yet they're paying half of these expenses, even after you explain the other ways to do it, et cetera. There's something going on there that I think.
Peace of mind is priceless.
Okay, so let's open it up to some questions. If someone would raise their hand, if they have a question, comment about any part of this. We have 28 participants out there.
Woohoo!
No one's raising. Okay, let me, while people are thinking of questions, let me come back to talking with you, Marilyn and Bruce. I'll start with the woman, Marilyn. Marilyn, how did it go from your perspective? Did you feel comfortable about all of it? Did you feel that Michelle did anything that you didn't like? What did she do that you really liked?
No, I mean, I think I liked it. To your point, I mean, I guess I was, pretty amenable in things that I didn't necessarily, I knew have to be amenable, but, I appreciated that Michelle brought that up, saying, remember, you're not making the same amount. You can get more than 50% or $1 isn't the same with my salary than it is with Bruce, or the alimony. So, I appreciated her trying, bringing that up, even though I was, more on, all right, let's just get this done. I'm fine with this. So I thought I liked that part of it, which is,
Now, Bruce, you thought you got some really good deals there, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have a peanut gallery in Chuck, and Chuck's been basically telling me what to ask and what to, what would be good and what I can sort of get away with, and so I was feeling relieved that Michelle was so agreeable to everything I said and that Marilyn didn't push back. And I was afraid that Michelle was going to be more directive and start talking about alimony, and I didn't want her to start talking about alimony. But at the end, I was actually feeling kind of relieved because she did hit all the high points that I would have been that Bruce would have been concerned about. We didn't get down into any of the answers, so I felt confident that we were going to get some materials after the mediation to look at and to talk about, because Bruce and Marilyn, they're still talking. So, I feel like they can probably talk through some of this stuff, and, we did get a little bit of homework, and I felt like there was more to the story to come after that. And I felt like we did cover a lot of ground in that session, a lot of ground.
Right. Okay, Meryl Martin has a question. Meryl, if you unmute yourself and ask.
Thank you. First of all, I think you got one thing across very, very well, and that's that where mediation is open-ended. You can be very creative, and you were very creative in the discussion. One thing that adds even more creativity I wanted to bring out is the IRS form that you kind of touched base on a little bit. It's Form 8332. And as a CPA, I can tell you that leaving it open-ended, and it's not always the person earning the most money that would get the best benefit, because as child credits increase, and that seems to be the trend, and they may even increase by more going forward, it's not always the higher earner that gets the benefit because there are income limitations. So for instance, Bruce, you could all of a sudden be earning over $400,000 a year, and you would no longer get that benefit, where Marilyn then could get the benefit. So having it in the agreement, open-ended to say collectively, whichever would result in a better tax effect would benefit you both. So I think it's a very powerful form that we can use going forward in our marital settlement agreement.
Michelle, when you have clients, do you require them to get attorneys?
No,
Okay.
we highly, I can't require, they're adults, they can do what they want, but we do encourage always everybody to run their agreement by a tax professional and an attorney. But if they choose not to, they choose not to.
Okay, well, some mediators do require it.
How do you require it?
Because they say they won't proceed unless they get attorneys. So,
I see.
Yeah, especially if there's an alimony issue. Okay, so if you don't require them to get attorneys, what kind of responsibility do you feel you have to have the parties come up with something that's sort of fair? Do you feel any responsibility? In other words, if the parties just come up with something like Bruce said, no alimony, and Marilyn says, okay, I'm not going to take any alimony. And he says, we're going to 50-50, and she says, that's fine. And it keeps going on. And in your mind, it's now become very unbalanced. Do you think you have any role in that? Or is it just, that's their deal?
Right. So I think we do have a role. I think from the very beginning, in that first meeting that we have, where we sort of explain this whole process, we explain that part of it, especially the finances, is equitable distribution. And that means that you have the ability to make an agreement that works for you, but still has to be somewhat fair and equitable, even though there's flexibility in those terms. But it can't be that one person has all the assets and one person has all the debt. So we sort of remind them of that as we're addressing, the finances and whatnot. And also, we always encourage them to go to their attorney to make sure they're aware of their legal rights and that they're getting a fair and equitable agreement, and also to run it by the tax attorney. But in the end, if it's so imbalanced, I might say something like, well, we talked about how this has to be fair and equitable. I'm not sure if a judge would approve this or if this meets the qualifications of something fair and equitable, and then have them sort of relook at everything.
Okay. I'm not sure, by the way, that if this goes, if you get an MOUs and then it goes to the property settlement agreement and it's consensual and it goes,
I
that
know,
the judge is ever going to even look at it,
I know.
right? So I don't think that's so. Okay. And then if the parties again said to you, well, no, we're happy, then that would be that, right?
Ultimately, yeah. I mean, ultimately, we allow parties to make their, adult decisions for their futures.
Even if they're bad decisions.
People make bad decisions all the time.
Okay. So, Bruce, you're a lawyer, right?
I am.
And you do family law. How does this compare? Do you do mediation?
Sure.
Oh, you do. Okay. How does this compare to when you're acting as a lawyer for a client?
You mean like acting as the party, or
No,
being
acting as the lawyer for
the-
a party.
versus the mediator or the party?
Yes. No.
Versus
Versus being. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, that's a lot different. I mean, mediation obviously is neutral. You can't offer legal advice, and it's very painful sometimes to see people making the decisions that they're making in front of you. I do not enjoy doing private mediations because what I fear happens is what I see on the other side as a review attorney, is that on occasion I have had the very much not pleasure of redoing their agreements once they realized what they are doing. Once they've received, in other words, once they've received counsel, and I'm very mediation friendly, but for example, some people will waive child support, and that's not really, it's it's kind of not a thing. Like you can't, like you can do it, but it's not enforceable. Some people don't understand what they're like when they distribute their assets, they don't understand their assets. They're waiving on pensions. They think the pension's not worth anything. There wasn't any discovery done. When this is what I see on the other side of the review attorney part of a private mediation, from various, usually, various mediators. Some are very good and some you find this to be true, what I'm talking about. So as a mediator, I would just really prefer that the parties have their own legal counsel, because there comes a point at which, it's almost like a dual role. Like it's a very difficult position to be a neutral, to remain neutral. You can't really be directive. You can only sort of be directive. You can't tell them what to do. You're not making decisions for them. You are a facilitator. And if you're faced with a power imbalance, say someone has a lot of knowledge about the finances, for example, say that there's like not domestic violence, but you do perceive that there is a power imbalance there. And I get it. People have reasons. Maybe they just want to get the heck out of the relationship. And I understand that. And it's just, it's like a cross section of humanity out there. There's like, when these relationships disassemble, and it's very difficult, because like people like Bruce would be more than happy to waive off on the pension. Oh yeah, it's not worth anything. You don't want that.
No, if you get
hard.
if you're getting an MOU to review as a review attorney, and it has a lot of things have gone in a way that you wouldn't like to see,
right,
for your client. But
Correct.
if it were all explained either in the MOU or, some other document that goes along with it, that there was a full discussion about alimony, and that it was explained and that Marilyn understood it, whoever the party understood it and made her decision on this basis. Are you going to try to talk your client out of that? I mean, it's an informed decision. In other words, is your problem with getting an MOU that there are things that are not explained and then the client doesn't even understand it? Or is it that if you get something well-written, well-explained about what's the background, what's happening, why they reach these decisions, are you less likely to advise your client to do something else?
So I appreciate the question, and I'm gonna answer a little bit of a different question. If I get
Okay.
an MOU that is fully explained, like you said, I will want to hear it again from my client's mouth about what they understand about what's been written into the, it's comforting to me on some level to say, okay, they've talked about this and the mediator is recording these, these recitations and so forth. I will, trust and verify, right? So I will want to discuss the same thing, the same exact thing all over again, anew with my client. And first of all, I'm going to want to know if they understood what was written in the MOU, because I've seen some phenomenal MOUs and the clients, it goes right over. And when I say, do you understand that this is the effect of this? Or do you understand that this is what this says? Or do you understand, I have experienced enough times where the client really does not appreciate what it is that was written in the MOU, or what they agreed to, or what they didn't agree to, or they understand or they don't understand the impact of the decision or the result of the decision. And if they had, they probably wouldn't have. I think it's a very stressful situation for people to be in a mediation, and the mediator is a repeat player, and the clients are not. And I believe it's as a mediator, I've seen it's a very stressful situation for them to be in, making decisions essentially in real time. And I do think that there are plenty of things to talk about. Listen, if an MOU comes in, and it doesn't matter to me whether it's written, whether it's 10 bullet points or 10 pages, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go through every single thing with the client, make sure that they understand what it is that they're looking at, what they have tentatively agreed to. And if they say, if Marilyn comes to me as the review attorney and says, yep, I know I said 50-50 and this is what I think it means, and I'm totally okay with it and I understand what it means, and then I would be in this example, I would be in the position of saying to Marilyn, do you understand that if you start to make $250,000, that child support is going to change? It's all changeable. It's not permanent. It's not a 50-50 thing forever. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, well, I'm just telling you that. Oh, okay, well, I'm all right with that. Then I say, okay, great. We don't have a problem. There's no issue here. We can continue, but they need to be. And then what I will do is I will recap that in writing for the client. I'll say, hey, it was great having this conversation. Here's what we discussed, this, that, and the other thing. And then they'll have it for their recollection, I'm not in the business of blowing up an agreement, but I'm all for informed decision making, and I'm going to play my part to make sure that happens. I'm not going to say to Marilyn, hey, I might say to her, like, hey, did you realize you probably, I'm just saying, like, there is exposure here for alimony. Are you interested? I mean, do you understand? And then she might say, well, look, I've been living 5 years on my own. I really, you know what? I do not want money. I would rather have him support the children, blah, blah, blah. So for every story, they're all unique, and there's no cookie cutter. And I'm not going to say, well, you should. What I'm going to do is I use a model that's like a triangle, like the judge, he knows this much of your case. We know this much of your case, and you guys know this much of your lives. No matter how much time you spend with me, I'm never going to know your whole life. So I'm going to do my job, and I'm going to just give you some counsel, and I'm going to help you make an informed decision. And if you're cool with it, then let's put it into an MSA and you can go forward with your lives. you know?
Okay,
An agreement is always better than,
right.
an agreement that they create is always better, but I always just like to dot all the i's and cross all the t's just as to their understanding. And that's all. And if they want to waive child support, then I will say to them, look, it's not really a thing. And just so you know, at any moment they can come to court and ask for child support. If you're okay with that, then that's fine. And I'll put that, in a writing so that they can remember it later too. But no, I would not rip it apart and put it back together again. That's not fair to the parties, I don't think.
Okay. I think this has been an excellent discussion. You did all a great job in the role play. And so I want to thank you very much. We're a little bit over. Let me just mention two things. Next Monday is a CLE webinar, and it's negotiating skills for mediators, part 1, which is civil. And it's going to be Peter Phillips, and it'll be a good program. October 18th, Gabrielle Stritch is going to put on a webinar on Social Security for seniors. So put those on your calendar. And with that, again, many thanks. Great job, and see everyone next time.
Great job, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.